Thank you for checking out Tea and a Buddy on YouTube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Hello and welcome to the Tea and a Buddy podcast with me, Dominic.
And me, Erica.
And this is part 2 of our Outlander characters episodes. Yes. We know you're sick of them, but here they are.
We don't.
Unless you're an Outlander fan who just absolutely loves hearing other people talk about Outlander, which is what we're doing.
Yes.
But we're talking about the characters and how we perceive them and everything from following on from our part 1. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to it.
Yeah, just as a little disclaimer here, we're recording this on the same day that we recorded the part 1. So.
Yes, even though this has been released months and months later.
Well,
no, it hasn't.
Well, no, but there's been, other Outlander episodes, or at least one since then. So,
yeah.
And we're not going to mention that episode here, so just to let you know ahead of time, that's why.
But yeah, we talked a lot. We were talking about Roger.
But yeah, Roger, what a weenie.
Roger, what a weenie. We were talking a lot about Roger in the last one. Roger, what a weenie. And yeah, I mean, I'm not having any sympathy for him, really. It's kind of... He's just kind of...
He's a historian. He should have known what life was going to be like.
He was chasing Brianna, but it was kind of like... It seemed like, oh, do I really love her? Maybe.
Yes!
In the beginning it was, because when they met... Because she lived in America in the 60s, too. She went back to...
their relationship.
Their relationship seemed a little bit forced, especially in the TV show. I don't know if it's expanded out or fleshed out in the books. It might go better. Mm-hmm. But in the TV series, it seemed kind of like Roger and Brianna. What?
Forced.
She's got, he went back to the States because he was coming for a Scottish festival, wasn't he? Like 1969 or something.
Yeah.
And they hadn't, this was the 60s, there was no internet, so they couldn't really keep in touch except for phone calls and maybe telegrams or, letters or whatever,
Yeah.
And I don't think they did that much.
Well, we have no idea.
We have no idea, but it seemed that way when they met up, and it was kind of like they hugged, and it was kind of awkward them seeing each other.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like he was just like, hi. Well, I'm going to do this now.
Well, for me, it was just like,
this Scottish festival in North Carolina, and we're going to do this, and we're girlfriend and boyfriend. And it was kind of like, are you, though? She seems kind of like, you seem not really into each other. I'm not buying this relationship here, people.
Yeah, well, for me, it was always just like, why is she so into him?
Yeah.
Not that he's not attractive or whatever, but just... Where did it come from? She only met him for a little while. He helped her research into what this big mystery was when her mom
and I always thought, there's going to be another guy. There's a guy in America she's got, or she'll be into another guy or whatever. And it seemed like, oh no, there's no other guys. She's not a young carefree thing. She just hangs out with her girls all the time. No other boys are interested in her. I thought, this isn't This isn't what would happen. She'd have a few at least, trying to get her.
Well,
we don't, but for the purposes of the story, she was just like, nah, it's Roger all the way.
Yeah.
Roger too, she thought that
he's supposed to be 10 years older than her too, right?
He's in his 30s.
He's about 8 years older.
And she's in her mid-20s, early 20s.
Well, right, because I think he said he was born in 1940.
He was born in 1940. She was born in 1948, so about 8 years. Yeah.
Which,
she wouldn't be into him that much. She might be, as he's an older guy, but...
They're both into education. They're both very intelligent. So, okay.
Nowadays it's not so frowned upon, someone's going out with someone 10 years younger or older
back
or whatever.
then it wasn't either.
Well, back then it was kind of like it wasn't, but it was a bit of gossip. People were like, whoa, and she's 10 years younger than him.
I don't know. I think my grandma is about 7 years younger than my grandfather. I think it's always been kind of normal for
I guess
an older
maybe
man.
A couple. Maybe I don't know. Maybe today it's more frowned upon. I don't know.
But even back in the 1700s, let's say, people were marrying off their 14-year-old daughters to someone well in their 30s.
We need the land, boy. We need the money.
Yeah. So I don't think it's it's unusual.
It's not unusual.
But yeah, I just never. It was just there was never any kind of.
But there was never any spark between them. Yeah, there wasn't any.
Then again, look at it in relation to Claire and Jamie in the beginning. I didn't really ever get the impression that she was super into him either. You always kind of got the feeling that he was bit into her.
I think she wrote her as like, Diana Gabaldon wrote her as like, oh yeah, I kind of fancy him.
She didn't ever come across that way.
But she tried to come and like rise above those feelings and whatever,
because she was
he's a bit younger than me, because she's older than him.
Well, no, she was in love with her husband, so she was just like not looking at anybody else, is what I felt like. And then even up to the point when they got married, and she was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to do it because we're married, We
have to do it, and she was like, okay.
Are you okay? She's just like, are you okay with the fact that I've already done it? And he was just like, yeah, if you're okay with the fact that I haven't. And she was just kind of like, oh, you haven't,
That's when she became really interested.
Maybe that's where
she is.
Maybe that's where her interest in him came. But
absolute prevert.
I didn't ever see it happen with Brianna and Roger.
No,
I didn't ever see that moment where these two are now in love.
And then then he went to North Carolina. Getting back to it, and they did this thing, and then he asked her to marry him, and she said no. And he kind of was like, well, if you're not going to marry me, I don't want you then. Bye. And he pretty much left her.
Yeah.
And then they went back to... he went back to Scotland and they had a wonderful time.
And you're just thinking Jamie never would have done that.
Jamie wouldn't
He
have
would
done
have never
that.
accepted, the fact of her to say no. He would have been like, yes, you are, whatever.
And then... It's been like a year or so, hadn't it? Was it like a year they didn't speak? And then he phoned her because he goes, oh, I found... What? He found something out to do with his parents.
I can't remember.
Oh, I found out where they are. They're in North Carolina.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And, but he found the obituary too.
Mm-hmm.
But she already knew about it thanks to Frank, because Frank had been looking them up. And all that, back when he was still alive.
Yeah.
And he knew what happened to them. But yeah, he told her that, and she was like, yeah, and, you're going to apologise to me? And he was like, oh, not really. So, see you then. And she was like, see ya. And then he put the phone down a couple of months later or something, he called her up.
Yeah, I can't remember why.
Because... He said, oh yeah, he found the obituary and she needs to know about it, his little housekeeper woman.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, she needs to know about that, and you should tell her, and you should tell her how you feel as well, because you obviously are into her and stuff.
Yeah.
So he phones her and he gets he gets her flatmate, she goes, oh, you didn't know? She's gone back to Scotland. And she's...
Oh, I thought she was going to see you,
and she left a letter for you, and she went through the stones, and so he decided, oh, I'm going to go and follow her,
Mm-hmm. Which I guess is a big romantic...
hilarity ensues.
Which I guess is a big romantic gesture, but still, it
seemed like why is he doing that? Because he's kind of like half-hearting it. Because as soon as he met her, he finally meets up with her after meeting his ancestor on the ship across, and I mean, he should, by rights, he shouldn't have survived the pirate ship he was on, because it was a pirate ship at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It was like a privateer, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he shouldn't have survived all that, because they would have killed him.
Yeah.
The pirate
him
crew,
being the way he was.
he was like, oh, you're throwing these people who've got the pox overboard, what you doing? Are you out of your mind? It's like, they're pirate. Pirate, mate. It's just like...
pirate.
Pirate. It's just like, how are you... he kept his head down, he managed to hide his... Saying that Stephen Bonnet did almost... to be fair, he almost killed him once, But it's like, it's fight or flight. Would he have killed him? I think if it was me in the situation and I was being threatened, it's like, you kill. It's just like, it's him or you. I've got that very much a thing. It's him or you. And you always have to make it you, at the end of the day.
But then he meets up with Brianna and they sleep together and
then he throws another fit.
Yeah, they have a big fight, and he
leaves her. Again. And then she ends up getting raped by the captain of the ship that he came over on.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are you doing?
Well, I can't remember what their fight was about.
She was kind of like, why did you come here? You know, it's kind of like... And he was like, I came here! It's such a great... I'm taking you home, and I came here.
No,
and...
I think he told her about knowing about that, and then she got pissed off.
And he was like, and he got pissed off, and he stormed out. And...
Yeah.
And it's like he stormed out and left her there in the middle of 1700s, where women weren't treated any better than they were in the 60s. You know, even worse, in fact, you know. So you left her at the mercy of these kind of like bloodthirsty, savage men.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
Roger, you bloody weenie. What are you doing?
He's just done so many things. And then he gets captured by the Mohawk and...
Well, no. What? To be fair to him, he was looking for Brianna. And he found Jamie, who thought he was the man who had raped her. So Jamie beat the crap out of him. And young Ian sold him to the Mohawk, because that's what you did in those days. You sold people. You know? It's just like you sold them to the Mohawk, and the Mohawk...
Well, Jamie said get rid of him, so he took him on this
epic walk up to New York from North Carolina.
Yeah.
An epic walk, which would have killed an historian from friggin' anyway. Like walk... Oh, I just casually did a walk from North Carolina on a rope by the Mohawk up to New York State. It's just like, yeah, no one does that, mate. You know, you would have been killed. You're dead.
Yeah.
But he survived it. And still he wasn't happy.
Yeah.
Still it didn't toughen him up.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
He couldn't make it... So when they got to their camp, he couldn't make it through their gauntlet
To be one of them.
To become
so
one
they
of
just
them.
put him in... They just put him in a cage.
Jail, yeah.
With a crazy priest who'd fathered a kid with one of the women in the camp. I don't know, but yeah, Roger is just very wienerish.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, in that, you just want him to go home now, you know?
Well, you know, I hate to say it, but that episode, The Ballad of Roger Mack, where we thought he was hung and dead...
He probably should have been hung and dead.
I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, Brianna and...
Because you don't really care about Brianna too much either. I mean,
not that much, but I care about her for Claire and Jamie.
Yes.
They love how... You know, they went so
Roger
many years...
Roger can go home.
They went so many years
Roger.
without each other. Jamie went so many years without not having... this child of Claire's that was also his, you know. He went so many years without her. I just want him to have years with her now. I don't care about her, really, but I care about Jamie having her, you know, because he didn't have
more
her
invested
for so
in just
long.
Jamie and thing. But yeah, Roger,
so, and I just
Roger
thought,
Mackenzie.
And I just thought, with Roger dead, Brianna doesn't have any reason to go back to the 60s, you know? It's like, she can just stay here and
raise their
be
kid
with her family.
Because they got a child together and everything,
Live out the rest of her days in the 1700s.
Because she was raped. The paternity which is still under... I think that's another region Roger's all... don't know if the child's mine.
Yeah.
And he's
which
still
is
a little
thing
bit
that Jamie would have never done. Jamie would have been like, it doesn't matter.
Everybody's comparing him to Jamie, and he's got a lot to live up to there.
Yeah.
And the problem is like he's never going to. And I think he realizes that, and you know, that's
even Frank raised Brianna with Claire, knowing that it was somebody else's kid, and he was just like, you know, but Roger always was a little bit like, don't know, you know, ooh, might not be my kid. It's just like, you just want to smack him around, you know, and say, grow up.
Ponytail. What's going on here, Roger? Anyway, there's other characters like young Ian Murray. He's coming back now. He went. They traded Roger again. They traded Roger for him. Ian said, "I'll join the Mohawk in his place," and you know he joined them and he became one of them. And we haven't seen him for a couple of years now. It's been about a couple of years, or maybe a few months.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure how the timeline goes in the 1700s, but anyway, it's been a few months. He returned in this last episode.
Oh, it's been at least a year, surely.
A year, surely, anyway. But he returned. He looks all mohawked up. He said he's just got his little mohawk.
Yeah. Just in case you don't know or remember who young Ian is. He's Jamie's nephew.
He's Jamie's nephew,
Jamie's sister's kid. Just one of them.
Who tagged along to North Carolina.
Yeah. He was always looking for adventure, really.
Yes, he was, yeah.
Since we started seeing him, he was always looking for adventure. And
he was out with the Mohawk, and, he...
Well, he was living with Jamie, first of all, in Edinburgh, sleeping on a cot in Jamie's printing studio. He had kind of basically run away from home. And because he didn't want that kind of living on a farm life.
Yeah, it was too boring for a 16-year-old or whatever.
Yeah, he wanted to be in the city. He wanted to be, like, living it up with Jamie, like,
Lord of the Manor, and, kind of like that kind of thing. Yeah. Rebels without a cause.
Rebels, yeah. He was always things. So then Jamie was going to go to America.
And so he tagged along much to his mother's, behest,
Yeah.
She was very much like, oh, no, you're not going there. But he was like, she's like, he's 16, he wants to do it, so let's let him do it. We'll look after him.
Yeah.
He went and joined the Mohawk. And he's had a time with them. We don't know exactly what kind of life he had with them, but he seems kind of like depressed over some woman.
I found him in the beginning. I found him a little bit annoying, a little bit unnecessary. I was like,
but he's growing on him.
Oh, he grew on me. Yeah,
in contrast to Roger, who hasn't really grown on anyone. And if there's Roger fans out there, tell us what you like about him.
Yeah.
Tell us
Is there anybody rooting for Brianna and Roger?
Who's rooting for Roger? It's like, come on, Rog. Get through this, Rog. You know you can do it, Rog.
Anybody out there who could do with more Roger storylines?
Roger.
Yeah, we could talk about Roger for ages.
Poor old Roger. Yeah.
But young Ian,
young Ian Murray.
He was very sweet. He was willing to marry his cousin Brianna when they found out that she had been raped and stuff, and they weren't sure if Roger had gone back to his own time, or whatever, or if the Mohawk were gonna kill him or whatever. He was like, "Oh, I'll marry you so that your honor's not destroyed when they see that you're having a child, as an unwed woman." So he's very sweet. He was willing to live with the Mohawk in exchange for Roger, as Dominic said before, which when he did it, from the moment he did it, you were like, what? Oh, what? We don't want Roger. But I said, it's kind of perfect for his character because he's always like looking for adventure, really.
Yeah, and I honestly thought that was the last we'll ever see of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I kind of did too.
But then he turned up again in this last episode, and I was like, okay, his story's not finished.
And he seems very depressed.
He's a bit moody, and we later realize, with Roger, him and Roger bond over their shared traumatic experiences, but we still kind of like are in the dark about Ian's. It involves a woman and a child. Presumably. Yeah. And, she's not dead.
She's not dead, apparently.
So my theory is that, the Mohawk have had enough of white people, and they cast him kind of out.
They just decided, never mind.
Never mind, we don't want you. You're not one of us.
Yeah.
With your ginger hair and your
Scottish
accent, you'll never be one of us, basically. Because I
can't imagine that he did anything wrong.
I don't think he did anything wrong.
He was learning the languages and stuff. He was really like trying to integrate himself.
I suspect
he found them interesting.
The British came and found their camp, and the Crown, or maybe there was settlers that encroached on their land. And he was kind of like trying to keep the peace between them, kind of like what Claire was doing. Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, stop, it's like...
And they were just
people.
like, oh, you're not one of us.
Like that German guy who was like, get off my land, and then they burned his house down because he killed one of them, didn't he?
Oh, I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, he killed one of them, or he scalped an old Indian woman. He was like, why have you done that? So, it was that kind of thing, it's like, it's going to be a bone of contention for a while. They're encroaching on their land. Mm-hmm. Get lost, basically, and I have a feeling it was just kind of like, oh, he's one of us, he can speak, he's white,
Yeah.
Basically, is what it is. And they were kind of like, oh, you've betrayed us.
Yeah.
By, it's that kind of thing. I think that's what's happened
we'll
there.
find out. And
we'll find out, yeah.
And like I said,
we're probably going to find out.
And like I said, we're filming this at the same time as...
We're recording this anyway. We're not actually filming.
We're recording it.
We're always filming,
We're recording it at the same time. We recorded the previous Outlander podcast. So maybe we've already found out. We don't know yet. It'll be a surprise to us, too. Anyway.
Another character which seems to have really taken off.
Yeah.
And,
with the fans.
With the fans, anyway. Is Lord John Grey, played by David Berry.
And I wonder if that's not just because the actor is quite good looking.
It probably have something to do with that, but when I was doing research on this, I noticed that Diana Gabaldon has wrote a series of spin-off books, all centering around Lord John.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which may explain his popularity with the TV series fans. They're all like, oh, Lord John.
Yeah.
He appears in the Outlander series, but he's also got his own kind of like spin-off novellas and novels, like Lord John and the Private Matter, that kind of thing. Lord John and the Sorcerer's Stone, that kind of thing, it's just like, it's that kind of thing, he's kind of like got his own, like, I guess because he was like popular with her in her head, maybe, or maybe
she liked him. As
she was writing him, or the fans were like, "Oh, we need to hear more about this Lord John character who's so into Jamie. We feel sorry for him. He needs his own little series."
That's interesting. I'd be interested in reading those.
Yeah, Lord John.
I wonder too if, not having read any of the novels yet, which I imagine we will at some point. I wonder if they have taken some of the scenes from his own novels and incorporated them into the television series.
I think he appears in most of the books.
Oh, really?
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, and these Lord John, and they're just, these Lord John novels are just fleshing out, because apparently there's one, The Scottish Prisoner, which, is about him and Jamie's time at the prison.
Yeah.
Where he was governor of the prison. Jamie, he was like a major in the army or something. He was Major Grey.
We met him quite early on.
Back up a bit. In the Outlander TV show, he comes and he takes over Ardsmuir prison. From, I think it's Ardsmuir.
No, we met him before that. He was a kid when they
were... Oh, that's right!
When they were... planning Culloden, possibly?
They were the British Army.
It was one of the battles, anyway.
The government troops, if you want to say that, because, the government troops, because it was all Britain back then, even with the Jacobites, it was a union signed into effect, so Scotland was part of Britain. The government troops, the Redcoats, he was like...
he was a scout.
He was a scout for them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was only 16, and his brother was Lord Melton. Of Melton Mowbray fame. I don't know. He was the Earl of Melton anyway, and he was kind of like, and Lord John was like, he was aristocracy. He was nobility. And so he scouted, and he was going to go kill Jamie. He was going to go slit his throat from behind it, but of course he cocked it up.
Well, he was a kid.
He was a kid, so he didn't know what he was doing. And so to get information out of where the British troops were, the government troops were, he, said to, he made out like, oh, we're going to take the virtue of this woman. And,
well, she pretended.
She pretended.
Oh, please don't.
Help me. Yeah. And he was saying, no, don't take that lady's virtue.
Don't harm that woman.
I'll tell you where they are and how many of them there are or whatever. And so he let him go. And then he returned. He returned like years later, as when Jamie was imprisoned at Ardsmuir as one of the Jacobite rebellion people, because all the Highlanders who'd rebelled against the crown were now imprisoned as political prisoners.
Yeah.
He was governor, and he kind of got to know Jamie, and he was like, oh, you don't remember me, do you? And he goes, oh, I remember you. He's like, he told him, and then it transpired that Lord John was gay.
Yeah.
And had feelings for Jamie and came on to him and was like, oh, after the Jack Randall thing, it was like, no.
Yeah. Had enough of this.
Had enough of this nonsense. And so, but he eventually forgave him. And then he popped up again in the Caribbean as governor of Jamaica.
Yeah, they became friends. They had regular chess games.
And, they just got to know each other. And he's going to be a fixture, He's like, he's a fixture of Jamie's life now, traveling around.
Well, he's raising Jamie's child, isn't he?
Jamie's child from, again, you have to watch a TV show.
Yeah, there's a lot involved.
There's a lot to tell you about all these people. And again, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about them.
We're not making a lot of progress on these. But, those are the main characters. There was also characters like
Myrta,
Fitzgibbons.
Another great, who wasn't really expanded upon in the books. But in the TV show, apparently Duncan Lacroix. Yeah, it's the French name. He's an English actor. He's not Scottish, so. He plays Myrta Fitzgibbons, the Jamie's uncle. Isn't he?
Godfather,
that's it.
Yeah. I think he was a cousin to Jamie's dad.
Yeah. He raised Jamie and made sure he was okay and everything, and pledged to be by his side. He's part of the regulators in North Carolina who are fighting against the taxes for the crown, which was basically the embers or the starting fires of the American Revolution, He eventually gets killed by the crown troops.
Yeah, he was another great character, though, a very strong person that you just kind of...
And I think because of the way he was portrayed, they were like, oh yeah, we've got to write more scenes with him in it. And, they expanded upon him, and they were like, oh great, they didn't... I saw on one of the Outlander forums from 2017, it's like, so glad they haven't killed him off. It's like, well, they have now. It's like, he's gone now.
He was always kind of protecting Claire.
He's protecting Claire. He knew about their time travel thing, they let him in on it. So... Yeah.
He had an oath to Jamie's mother that he would protect Jamie as long as he lived, yeah.
And he released Jamie released him from it just before he went off and fought.
Did he? I thought he said, I do not release you.
No, he did. Yeah, he did. I do not release you from the oath.
Yeah, because he didn't want to try to keep him from dying.
Yes. And it's just like, nope, I'm going to die. It's my time.
But yeah, he's a really great character. He's a favorite of
Dougal
mine,
Mackenzie.
Definitely.
I mean, Frank and Jack Randall. Jack Randall was pretty much the worst British officer you could ever hope to meet. He was kind of like a complete rip-off of Major Tavington or Colonel Tavington from The Patriot.
Yeah.
Just this psychotic officer who was like, kill everyone and rape everyone.
Both characters were probably written about the same time, so...
Maybe, yeah, that's true, yeah.
Great minds.
Great minds think alike, yeah.
But yeah, he was a complete psychopath. There was nothing really redeemable about him. Although, I guess they attempted it. She attempted to try to make us feel something toward him when his brother was dying.
Yes.
And he was quite, emotional about that.
Yeah.
And you could feel that he loved his brother a lot. So I think there was a bit of an attempt there to make us think of him as a human.
He married, yeah. So, and it turned out that, Frank's descendant was actually his brother and not actually Jack.
Yes. Thank God.
Thank God, because that psychopath's blood will not live on.
Yes.
Dougal Mackenzie. He was the
I always liked him.
Yeah, you always liked him, even though he was probably a big, huge bastard.
He was.
And they ended up killing him because he found out about their plot to stop the
It's funny because early on when Claire started getting with Jamie and Dougal, Dougal
got jealous.
Dougal's a real jerk and he's just like, oh, come with me, be mine, whatever.
Yeah.
And I said to you tonight, I said, I think I might take him over Jamie, actually.
He's just like big, bold Scottish men with the rogues,
He was very much a rogue,
and he got his time traveler in Gaylist, because she was all for the cause too, Yeah. Freaking Gaylist.
Gaylist Duncan played by
Lottie Verbeek. Graham McTavish played Dougal Mackenzie, and he's back now. as Buck.
Yeah.
As his descendant, you know. As his
I have a feeling we'll see him.
Yeah, we've got to see more of him.
I'm guessing he's going to be somewhere around Brianna's age. He's supposed to be Buck.
Yeah, Buck. He's supposed to be in his 20s.
Yeah.
If you can believe that, because Graham McTavish is obviously in his 40s or 50s, you know.
He'll be a bit older than Brianna because Galis was pregnant. Well, yeah, I mean, she was a little bit more pregnant than Claire was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
She wasn't burned at the stake.
Actually, no, she was pregnant because they still went to France and all of that after that. So, he's probably... a couple of years older than Brianna.
Yeah,
two or 3 years, maybe, something like that.
She had the baby, it was raised as a Mackenzie, and that was it, you know, and obviously down the line, you know, Roger came along, Weenie Roger.
Yeah, so Galis was another time traveler.
And she survived the witch burning.
We saw her in the 60s. Yeah,
and she came back to
I wasn't ever really sure how to feel about her because she was crazy, but she wasn't. And her and Claire were friends, but they weren't really. Yeah. And it was just like... Yeah. She was an interesting character, though, for that reason, because you just never really knew about her. You know, what's she planning? Is this true? You know, is she being real here? Is she nice? Is she not nice? You know, it was all a bit confusing, but that made her quite interesting.
Yeah. But Galis Duncan, she's played by Lottie Verbeek, Dutch actress. I mean,
she's in the Borgias as well.
She's in the Borgias as well, yeah. Playing the same sort of character, actually.
Sort of.
Similar type of character, yeah. I mean, the other woman, shall we say, you know, because she was always kind of like the other woman, you know. Yeah. But
because she was Dougal's other woman, wasn't she?
Yeah, well, yeah. And, you know, she was always conspiring to murder her husbands. What a lovely woman. Well, she did. She murdered her first husband in the 60s. Yeah. Then murdered her other husband in the 1700s just so she could, like, you know, her and Dougal would be together.
Yeah. She was quite, she held it against Claire and Jamie, I think. Although, I don't know, she didn't ever really say, did she?
She did the triple murder. Well, no, she murdered her husband in the Caribbean.
She didn't know, I don't think, that they killed Dougal. She didn't
care at the end of the day. She was just looking for, like,
I think she
Scotland's
did, because he was all about the same. Like, they were a perfect match, you know.
The true king. We need the true king on the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the perfect match, but so.
Yeah, he was a great character, and it was a shame that he was killed off. I mean, you kind of love to hate him. You know what I mean?
You just kind of like, you didn't really hate him.
You didn't hate him, not in a Jack Randall
bloody
kind of way.
Stupid Dougal, what's he done now?
Yeah.
You know? It's like he thought he was so narcissistic and so into himself and so like, you know, and you know, they were like, does he really believe in like this?
Yeah.
Or is he just using this as a way to, like, you know, try and gain it? Because, you know, like his brother Colin said to him, it's like, if you were half as popular as you think you were, you'd have more people here for this.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. You know, you just talk people into it, or you threaten them, and they come with you, you know.
You kind of felt sorry for him because he was so into the cause, you know, that it kind of blinded him in a way.
Blinded him away to what he was doing, yeah. Everything, you know, his heart was in the right place.
Yeah, I mean...
At the end, anyway.
Yeah. There's so many more characters, but we'll
wrap this up now.
We'll leave it
here, and we'll talk to you again about this.
Thank you guys about this. Have no fear.
Outlander
will be back.
We'll be back.
No, as always, we thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate your support, your time, your help in spreading the word about this podcast. If you would like to help us and support us, a way to do that costs you absolutely nothing is to leave us a review and a rating on
share
iTunes.
And share.
And to share it with all your friends.
Share with all your friends. Put it on your Facebooks. Put it on your Twitters. Put it on your Instagrams.
Yeah, help us grow our community.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening, and we shall talk to you later.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.